Well, look what the cat brought in. After 14 years, the Motoring Weekly podcast is returning, and I think I can claim the longest gap between episodes. I'm Stephen Wells, and I founded the Motoring Weekly brand back in 2008. I had been made redundant and wanted to use my spare time to create content until I found gainful employment. My initial plan was to write and sell articles to various automotive-based magazines. However, when I did some training on how to market those articles, I came across the concept of podcasts. Bearing in mind, this was over 16 years ago. So I started to self-publish via Apple Podcasts and did a lot of marketing. In those days, I could manually post each podcast to a range of online catalogs. And after 115 weekly podcasts and having secured a job that meant ever-increasing international travel, I decided to park the podcast in 2010 and turn to self-publishing articles on the same topics like motorsport, marque history, technology, industry news, notable people and notable vehicles. And then after over 600 articles, I put the brand on hiatus in 2020 because life had changed again. However, my enjoyment of podcasts was still there, and I continued to listen to a wide variety of content such as touring car racing, industry news, technical news, classic cars, historic racing news, US racing history, and a myriad of vehicle reviews. And over the years, I've written and hosted podcasts for corporate organizations, and then in recent months have been considering bringing my podcast back to life. And one of my grumbles, and being in my late 50s there are many, so one of my grumbles has been that the majority of podcasts that cover older road and race vehicles are from either the UK or the US and ultimately focus on the US and Europe. We would be lucky to hear of an event or item that relates to Australia. Yet, Australia has a thriving historic road and racing community that doesn't get the coverage it deserves. We have some fabulous machines down here that are looked after and are used regularly. Over the weekend, I went to the Machines and Macchiatos event in Terry Hills on the northern beaches of Sydney, and then straight after to the All-British Day at the Hawkesbury Showgrounds in the northwest of Sydney. Both events were well attended by car owners and visitors alike. There were literally hundreds of cars at the All-British Day from a wide range of mostly defunct manufacturers. The marques might be defunct, but the enjoyment of the vehicles certainly wasn't. And there's one thing about historic and classic cars. They satisfy the six senses that a human has. They sound great. When they fire up, many cars can move your balance through a shockwave, especially a race car. They typically have a gorgeous design, so they're pleasing to the eye. They smell great. The whiff of fuel, leather, or even burnt fuel is very evocative for many people. They are tactile, and people love to touch and feel the car. And finally, the smells might affect your taste, or you're having a delicious greasy snack at a car show. And I don't feel that many modern run-of-the-mill cars can satisfy many or all of our senses, especially some of the very new models coming on the market. I've heard the word bland used a lot, and people complain that only a handful of boring colours are available in the showrooms, and that's probably another podcast episode in its own right. People love to go to car shows because it's good for their health, satisfying the senses and getting exercise walking between the cars. However, Australians are very good at not promoting what happens at home. There are plenty of journalists and classic car buffs attending overseas events like Chantilly, Goodwood, Monterey and many more. But what about the grassroots events and race meetings? There is very little coverage anywhere. So I aim to change that. I want Motoring Weekly to showcase local events to the world, show the US and Europe that down here we have as big a community and we have some of the rarest cars on the road, and importantly, this country is retaining engineering skills that are being lost overseas. I'll be interviewing club racers, owners of vehicles, restoration specialists and engineers, club members, concours judges, and the people behind the automotive industry. My aim is to give them the coverage that allows more racing, businesses to grow, and more people to come to events and enjoy what they see. So this is episode 116, a raw, uncut, unplugged recording with no frills, released 14 years after episode 115 to kickstart Motoring Weekly version 2. Subscribe through your preferred podcast player, and I can guarantee that you won't be waiting another 14 years, not 14 months, not even 14 days for the next one. More great content is on its way, so subscribe so you don't miss it.